It's about that time of day again. Welcome back to Nightly Newsletter, boys and girls. Joseph James here. It's Wednesday evening, September 28th, 2016. We heard from Janet Yellen. We heard from OPEC today, which means we have some serious movement on the chart this evening, which is going to give us some great trading opportunities going into Thursday's session. Crude oil is bullish and trying to push through the highs of a channel. Even the S&P also bullish and trading at the highs of a bull spiking channel. Gold is bearish, but sellers are walking on very thin ice tonight. And the euro is range bound after the sellers had an easy session selling off the highs from last night's newsletter levels. No matter what happens tomorrow, we got a great plan for you guys. Don't forget, the only place to watch the full-length version of this nightly newsletter is here on our blog at sidewaysmarkets.com. If you're watching the video right now on our YouTube channel, not to worry. There's a link in the description of the YouTube video. Follow that link. Come join me on the blog at Sideways Markets for the full-length version with all four markets and all the analysis. And while you're here, don't forget, join the mailing list in the upper left-hand corner. I'll send you an email every evening when this newsletter video is ready to go live. Below the video tonight, you can download all the charts you see me using in tonight's video. Download those charts by following the link below the video. And of course, don't forget, upper right-hand corner here, if you're not a member here at School of Trade, I got a free pass for you to come out and join me as a guest for a few days this week or next. Grab your free pass in the upper right-hand corner. And of course, just below the free pass, don't forget, you can join the trial membership. You can learn all about what it means to be a student, and you can read all of our frequently asked questions if you're new to School of Trade. Find out why we're known as the industry leader in trading education. And of course, don't forget, I got someone standing by 24/7, 365 to answer all your questions if you have any questions along the way here today. Boy, we've had a great week here. We're wrapping up the month of September. Hope you guys had a great week with us so far as well. We got 2 more days here left in the month of September. Let's check the calendar, and then we'll jump into some charts here tonight because we got a big one getting ready for tomorrow. First of all, no major news coming out of Asia. Nothing to worry about there coming out of Asia here tonight. Tomorrow morning, we got some news from the EU at 5 a.m. And then, of course, we'll jump into the U.S. session at 8:30. Get a big chunk of news at 8:30, some minor news at 10 a.m., and then we're going to go all the way down here to find my gal, Janet Yellen, at 5:10 p.m. Now, typically, and I've checked multiple news websites on this, typically we see Janet Yellen at 10 a.m. on Wednesday and Thursday. So I'm going to double check again tomorrow. I've checked a couple different news websites on this, and it looks like we are out of the woods here for Yellen at this time, but she is going to be speaking, though, follow up tomorrow evening. I've seen conflicting reports. I've seen 4 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. I've seen 5 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. I'm going to check tomorrow, and we'll see what we get when I come back in tomorrow morning, right, to get back at it. Bottom line, though, right now, though, is it doesn't look like we're going to be bogged down by Janet Yellen tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., so it's really just 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m., and of course that pending home sales number at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, with the meat and potatoes, of course, coming here from those GDP numbers, right, international trade and jobs claims at 8:30 a.m. So nothing out of Asia, light news coming out of London, and of course, really the big news here tomorrow going to be around that 8:30 time frame. Get some minor news there at 10 o'clock. And again, I'm going to check in tomorrow and see what we're looking like for Janet Yellen. Usually she has a 2-day event. I'm not seeing anything right now, though, on the calendar here for 10 a.m. tomorrow. If she is speaking tomorrow morning, it will be at 10 a.m. tomorrow for a follow-up, right, to today's testimony. All right, got that planned for tomorrow. Again, we'll check back in tomorrow and see if these news websites are going to be able to give us something more to work with here tomorrow. Now, got some important topics to cover here tonight. We'll start with crude. We'll go to S&P, gold, and we'll wrap up, of course, on the euro. Crude oil is bullish and trying to push through the highs of a channel this evening after news broke late this afternoon about a production freeze agreement at OPEC. In most situations, when we hear from OPEC, we get a few days of action, sometimes only a few hours of action, and then price returns right back to where it all began. But the end of the month is on Friday, and we have August high up around 49.97. So this could definitely get interesting over the next 48 hours. Again, one of the things I want to remind you about, though, is that there has never been any concern about running out of oil. This world is filled. We've got abundance of crude oil. We could be filling up our swimming pools here in Los Angeles, right, with crude oil. We have a ton of it right now. So as soon as this starts to catch up, we may find ourselves right back to where we began. In most situations, Okay, in most situations, we hear anything out of an oil-producing nation, right? Any member of OPEC, we usually get a little bit of fluff out of it, and then eventually it ends up softening, and we end up coming right back to where we began. Now, again, there's a bit of a variable. We have the end of the month coming around right now. It looks very strong right now. And so with that said, we want to prepare for 3 scenarios tomorrow: bullish, bearish, and sideways. Now, let's be straight here. Typically, moves like these find sellers at the highs and end up trading sideways with a bull bias. But we will be ready for all options. First, buyers need to see a breakout move to new highs on enough strength to get the pullback to hold above that double up resistance at 47.42. Second, if the buyers can't get price pushing high enough, there's no question about the fact that we're bullish right now. But if we're going to want to be buying high here right now, we need to see some strength. If the buyers can't get price pushing high enough, right, that means enough above that, right, above that double up, enough to get that moving average above that double up. If they can't get it up above that double up, right, then we look for a range to develop, and we focus on buying the low of that range using traps at the lows. Third scenario, if the buyers take profit at the highs, the sellers may get a shot at a big move back to where this all began, down at the reversal line at 45.80 tomorrow, maybe even on Friday. Depends on when it happens. But they need to hold a pullback below 46.70 first, and then we can start thinking about selling. The one thing that we know for a fact is this is a bullish market, which means the one thing we do not want to do tomorrow is try to call a top on this market. The only selling we'll be doing at the highs will be taking profit on long positions, because in a bull market, there's no such thing as a reliable selling opportunity, right, until we get to becoming a bear market. Let's talk about those 3 scenarios one more time. Again, it all comes back to the fact that we are undoubtedly bullish. But remember, the reason why we are bullish comes on the back of news from OPEC. This won't be the first time, and it probably won't be the last time for most of us, right? At least maybe if you're a child right now, you might see the end of OPEC someday, but at least in the foreseeable future, right? OPEC, of course, will have the ability to fluff things up. Most of the time, it ends up eventually coming right back to where we began, because fundamentally speaking, there is no lack of oil right now, and the small production, right, limit they put on here is probably not going to make too much of a dent in the long term. So, what's scenario 1? Scenario 1 is, again, we have this prior month high, and I want to bring up a 5-minute chart here, because I don't do this very often because you don't really need them very much, but I want to point something out. When I look at the 5-minute chart right now, these are all levels, of course. We provide all these tools to our students here at School of Trade. Notice when I zoom out on this chart right now, notice all the open, high, low, close levels down here. Look at the big, wide open space up to, of course, that's the prior month high at 49.97. We have no rollover in sight. We have the end of the month in sight. I'm not saying we're going to get there. I'm just saying if these buyers hold this bid, and if they really want to light this puppy on fire, they've got a lot of wide open space to get there right now. As you can see, below us, we have a peppering of open, high, low, close levels because the market's been doing a lot of this, right? It was a bullish Monday, a bearish Tuesday, a bullish Wednesday. You get the point. Okay, so again, I'm not making predictions. I'm just saying this is a wide open space, and oftentimes those wide open spaces, they make for very appetizing, right? Very appetizing moves here for some runaway bulls. We need to see some proof first. So what's the proof going to look like? Scenario 1 would be find that moving average above the double up, right? And then let's talk, right? Then let's talk. Let's get that moving average above the double up. Again, I want to see a strong break higher, because if I'm a buyer right now, I'm taking a considerable amount of profit off at this 47.42. You can already see them fading off that high. Now, this is the overnight session right now, right? They just opened up, and so you've got traders here who are looking at this going, perfect, a gift from the crude gods. I'm going to take my profit right here and see where we go next. So the first thing is, if you want to be real bullish here, breakout pullback. And the breakout pullback I'm talking about needs to be strong enough here to get above and hold above that double up, right? The double up, of course, coming from the news after inventories today. Second scenario, watch out for a range. Now, it's always difficult to tell where the range is going to come, but we know for a fact, though, we're bullish. And so going into a move higher here, if we can't push higher, wait to see if a range develops, and that range makes for really easy pickings. We want to buy the lows of that range and look for sellers to try to reverse it and fail, right, to buy back up. Remember, though, don't buy the high unless what? Unless we get that strong move. How strong? Strong enough to bring that moving average up, right? Hold above the high like we just talked about. Okay, so watch out for a range here. The range may be forming right now, right? We don't know enough about it yet. It may do this. It may jump up and then form a range, right? So we really don't know enough about it yet, but watch out for that bull biased trading range. If I had to guess, I would say the range will be right here. So buyers looking, of course, now to buy the lows, buy the lows, buy the lows. And again, if we do get a strong enough breakout, how strong? Strong enough to get that moving average to come up, right? Then we can look to talk about being a buyer up to new highs. Scenario number 3. This is the one that's got to get you at least a little bit excited if you're a bear right now. You know, this, again, like I said, this won't be the first or the last time that we see OPEC, right, kind of puffing this market up a little bit, trying to get something going, right? It's always, this is different this time, but this time they mean business. We'll see. We'll see. This ain't the last time. This won't be the last time we see this. What do we need to see right now if you want to be a seller? The hard part is that you have to assume that anything that comes back down to this low or this low is likely going to be a buying opportunity. So any pullbacks here is a buying. What we need to see is, just as we said, if we want to be a buyer, if we want to be a bull above, it's going to be strong, right? We've got to see a ton of strength to the upside, and the same thing is to the downside now. What you first want to see is, here's the first thing. Get me below this 4670. 4670 is a beautiful example of a reversal line. They pulled back, they used it. Let's get us below that level, and let's try to hold a pullback there first. That's exactly what I'm looking for now, right, for those sellers. Think of it like a range, right? Think of it like a range. Moving average needs to come over, and we need to get a strong enough breakout to get that moving average below the range and then hold. Okay, if they can hold that pullback, then the sellers have something going. Where would they like to be targeting here? This bad boy right here. 4580 is a delicious target for those sellers. Then, of course, we go into the battle zone at 4590, right? The correction zone. Sellers are going to need to get to it quickly, because any move off of these lows, right, any move back down to those lows is now going to be seen as a buying opportunity long-term, back at the low, right, of a long-term channel. So sellers got to get a strong breakout pullback, right, for a move back down. Again, if I had to guess, I would guess their target will be back down at that 4580. At least that's where my target will be. Okay, then of course we go into, right, the battle zone, the correction zone, and this is where it gets a little bit difficult for those sellers, right, because that's where long-term buyers, right, myself included, will be looking for those sellers to fail, right? So think of it like this here, the next day and a half, maybe 2 days here. It's really tough to tell what's going to happen, obviously. Strong breakout pullback gives those sellers a chance here to get short. Then, of course, we go into the battle zone, right? We go into the 4580 area. I got to be really careful selling here. Break out, pull back, and go to be a buyer. Remember, this is when I remind you, seller failure, right? Seller failure is going to be about a 40-60 trade for buyers, right? The breakout pullback, that's the one you really want to wait patiently for if you're looking to buy on the way right back up. Now, with that said, hey, if all hell breaks loose tomorrow and we happen to get this price all the way back down, right? Breakout, pull back, chop, 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 breakout, pull back. Those will be the two selling opportunities you want to look for if you're a bear tomorrow. Either get to it quick or wait patiently and get to it below that correction zone for a move back to retest the low day from today. All right? A very, very bullish market here right now. Let's move on. Let's move on, right? S&P time. S&P is similar position as crude this evening, reacting bullishly to the news from OPEC this afternoon and trading at the highs of a bold spike in channel, which tells the buyers to be looking for a strong breakout pullback above the channel highs or wait for a pullback to the correction zone and try to use the reversal line at 21.58 for a move back to retest the high.